Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Francesca. It's me again. Today we're going to be talking about something interesting, and it's something that I've wanted to talk about for a bit, and it's about channeling your child's frustration. So recently I was talking to a mom, and she was telling me, that sometimes it's so hard getting out there, taking a child out and going somewhere, and sometimes you just have some meltdowns, you have some drama, the child just begins to behave in a certain kind of way, and you're like, what exactly is going on with you? I don't even know what to do. I don't know how to help you through this situation. So today I'm just going to be talking a bit about that. I'm going to be talking about your child's frustration, what you need to do, how to help your child go through that period. Of course, that we're still talking about parenting. It's still the parenting series, and I did say that during the parenting series we're just going to be touching different areas, talking about different things that bothers us as moms, as parents, especially as it touches on raising your child. So let's talk about frustration now. Let's talk about your child's frustration. So what is frustration? I was just thinking about that, and a bit of my digging and a bit of understanding that I have about frustration is that feeling that you have of helplessness regarding a situation. You don't know what to do regarding that situation, and sometimes the reason you don't know what to do is not it's kind of like something you have no control over. You're basically frustrated about what is happening. So and of course, adults, us as adult parents, we experience this emotion. Now, think about a child going through this emotion to having this similar emotion. Sometimes they don't even know what is going on with them. Sometimes they don't even know how to put words to the feelings that they have. So this is where you come in as a parent. This is where you come in to kind of help them through that emotion, through that feeling that they currently have. And that's what we're talking about today, how to help them go through that feeling of helplessness, that feeling of frustration. Sometimes we kind of think that when you feel frustrated, it's a bad thing. Not necessarily. Outbursts is okay. It's okay to be expressive, cry if you must, yell if you must. When it becomes concerning is when it is excessive, or when it is difficult to manage, or where you cannot regulate yourself, or where you cannot bring yourself back from that place where you are to a place where you need to be. That's where you need to start helping your child. That's where you need to get into the picture and help your kid understand that this is what you're going through. I know that this is what you feel. I know this is how you feel, but this is how to address that particular feeling. Okay. And of course, I said that frustration is a normal emotion. It's normal for humans to have that emotion, and if adults can have that emotion, if we can feel frustrated, then similarly we expect that children should feel that way as well. Okay. Of course, we also know that frustration is kind of like a perceived emotion to a feeling that you see or perceive, something you think you cannot do anything about, especially when it has to do with, sometimes it can be something that has to do with a goal, a desire, something that you want to achieve, something that you want to really do, and somehow there are roadblocks, or there is something that prevents you from doing that. Then you begin to have that feeling of helplessness, feeling of frustration, something you can't control. Now let's talk about causes of frustration. Why? My child is feeling frustrated. What is the reason? My child is doing this. Why is this happening? Why is my child having meltdowns in public? Why is my child just yelling helplessly? What is causing some of these things? We have internal factors and we have external factors. Now, internal factors are factors that You know, there's something happening within your child, within. So maybe your child is tired. You don't know, okay? Maybe your child is hungry, you know? Maybe there is something within them that is bothering them that you are unaware of, okay? Maybe they have some sort of fear, and of course what I did was to separate this into two. So I'm basically talking about the internal factors and then the external factors. So internal factors, something that has to do with self, something that has to do with you, something that is happening within you, you know, no control. There is nobody doing anything at all about that. This is all you. This is something that is going on within you. So we talk about hunger, we talk about tiredness, we talk about fear, we talk about maybe doubt, worry, we talk about inability to do something that you think you should ordinarily be doing, you know. So those are some of the things that can affect a child and make them feel frustrated. So let's talk about the external factors, right? Let's talk about the external factors. Some of the external factors that I sat down and I considered you know, kind of like reactions from adults, right? Maybe there's a task that your child is supposed to complete and they're taking their sweet time. Like I would say, sometimes I would say, yeah, she's just taking a sweet little time to do this thing that I'm asking her to do. Sometimes, because you feel that they are taking too much time to do what you've asked them to do, you yourself begin to, you know, act impatiently. And of course, this child is looking at themselves, and within the time frame that they currently have, they obviously cannot do the task assigned. Then that feeling starts to come up. They feel frustrated, they feel helpless. How do I do this within the limited time that mommy wants me to do them? How do I do this within the limited time that daddy wants me to do them? You know, so that begins to affect your child. External factors that has nothing to do with them. Of course, we can say that if they had done this when they were told to do them, maybe there will be no need for you to be impatient with them. However, you know, things that they cannot control, how you react to them, that can affect them. Maybe seeming roadblocks that they perceive or they see, something that they think is stopping them from doing what they need to do. That also can affect them and cause them to begin to manifest that feeling of frustration, begin to express a feeling of frustration. Okay, difficult tasks. I know that for example, my son, when you give him some work to do and it's hard, seemingly hard, like he would say, mommy, it's so hard, you know, then you'd see him, is either he busts out in tears, he's so helpless, doesn't know what to do, he has the meltdown, he has the puppy eyes, he's weeping and wailing, you know. So when that happens, I'm just like, okay, what do you need? All right, what do you need? Do you need mommy to help you? What do you need me to do? You can tell me, you can ask me, we can talk about it. What area is so difficult? What aspect is too hard for you to do? Let's talk about it. Okay, so that's something that we need to do as parents, to just help them, through this feeling that they have. Now, how do we cope? How do kids cope with frustration? Now, how do kids cope with frustration? Sometimes we as adults, we get that we know everything. We know take deep breaths, drink green tea, you know, do this and do that and XYZ. But we're talking about kids here now. We're talking about children. We're talking about people that are just learning their emotions. We're talking about people that are still trying to get a wing of what they are feeling. They are even trying to still put a name to some of the emotions that they feel, you know. They're still trying to be as expressive as possible, to tell you what they feel. They don't even know. Some of them don't even know that how they feel is actually what, you know, or how they feel is called frustration. They have no clue, you know. So you're still helping them to identify their emotions. You're helping them to go through this, to know that, okay, if I'm sad, it may be because I'm angry, it may be because I lost something. You're still trying to help them navigate that feeling. So they can't begin to think about taking, deep breaths, taking green tea, stepping aside. It is your job to teach them to do some of these things, because these are not things that they would know. They are still children. So as a parent, this is where your responsibility kicks in, how you would help them channel this frustration, how you would help them channel this thing that they feel, so that they can ultimately still be productive. Also, I'd like to mention that we must also be able to draw a difference between feeling frustrated and misbehaving. Okay, so you must know when your child is on the borderline of misbehavior, or when your child is basically just expressing the emotion of frustration. So that's where your job comes in. This child is being this way. Is it because he or she is trying to be naughty? Is it because he or she is trying to just behave in a certain kind of way? Or is it because is genuinely, or she's really feeling frustrated? I remember somebody asking my daughter a question and was like, oh, why are you feeling this way? And she was like, I kind of feel frustrated. I was like, ooh, somebody knows what frustration is here, And I was like taken aback a little bit when she used that word. Of course, I know that she has heard it multiple times and kind of like knows that this is what it means to feel frustrated. But the fact that she could actually articulate it and say that this is how I feel, I kind of felt good about that at least she could put words to the emotions that she's feeling. So that's something that we need to do. We need to be able to differentiate. Is this child just frustrated, or is this child just misbehaving? You want to be able to address both differently. You don't want to address a frustration and think that is misbehavior and then punish that act, instead of being responsive, responding to it. One other thing that we also need to learn as parents is responding to the frustration and not reacting to it. I know it is easy. I know that it is very easy to be very reactive. We've had a long day, you've come back from work, you are taking this child to go do some grocery, and then you get to superstore and you're picking up grocery and the tantrums begin and they want XYZ. Of course, we have a grocery list that we're running by, and because you have said that you're not going to pick up this, your child has a full or just melts down in the middle of the store. Of course, you know that is not frustration. That is borderline misbehavior, because the only reason that reaction is because you have refused to buy XYZ that the child wants you to buy, and not because there are other things that you've purchased already, right? It's not, you're not going to go to superstore and have an inexhaustible list, right? You have a grocery list and we run by those lists. Okay, so you need to also know that when you're acting this way, you're not displaying frustration. This is borderline misbehavior, and we're going to address this attitude, or we're going to be addressing this at the appropriate time, or there and there address it. Okay, so you need to learn to respond rather than react. You also need to know this frustration that my child is expressing. Is it continuous? Is it becoming aggressive? Is it leading to aggression? Is the aggression staying beyond normal? If a child is frustrated, I do not expect that it should lead to some sort of aggression. Okay, so if your child is constantly being frustrated and then leading to aggression, you want to address that. If it's not something that you can personally address, you want to be seeking help from psychologists, therapists, people that can address the situation, so that if there is something, maybe a root cause that you're not able to find, they can find it and address it before it escalates and becomes something that you cannot handle. Okay, so you need to know the difference. You need to know exactly what is happening, and you need to know what the frustration does to your child so that you can address that appropriately. Another thing is, so I talked about the fact that as adults, as adults, we can say that this is what we should do to manage our frustration, but children, they don't know how to do that. So this is where our responsibilities as parents kick in again. So you want to start teaching them. So first few things that you want to teach them, we know about the breathing exercise. So you want to teach your child, take some large breaths, breathing. Teach them, like, oh, when you go to the doctor's office and the doctors want to check your lungs, they want to see how you're breathing, they tell you mouth open, take huge breaths for me. You want to teach your child to do that, to be able to self-regulate, to calm themselves. You also want to teach your child to label their feelings, their emotion as they feel it. So let's take, for instance, that your child is crying, okay? Maybe child A is crying over this toy, and you walk up to child A, why are you crying? Oh, is this XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And the child says, oh, I'm crying because this toy is not working. Right? So now you know that the reason your child is crying is because this toy is not working. And then you ask, are you feeling sad because this toy is not working? Or are you upset? What do you feel? Then your child can say, I'm so sad because my toy is not working. Right? So now you've helped that child label that at this time, this is what is causing him or her to feel sad. So now you're teaching them gradually how to feel, how to label whatever it is that they feel. Is it anger? You want to teach them that, okay, this is what you feel. This is the name of the emotion that you feel. You want to teach them, if this is frustration, this is what it is called. And this is what is causing it. Now, when you know the root cause, okay, when you know the cause of the emotion, the frustration, then you can address it specifically. It becomes easier. Okay, you also want to teach them to take a step back from the activity that is causing them frustration. So if they are doing a maths worksheet now and they are finding it very difficult to complete the task, you want to teach them to take a step back. Okay, leave that situation, go do something else. If you want to do some coloring, go do some coloring. If you want to do some puzzles, go do some puzzles. Of course, this recommendations that I'm giving is also dependent on the age of your child. It's largely dependent on the age of your child. Of course, if you're parenting a teen, you know that you cannot tell a teenager to go and start coloring or something, except the teenager is somebody that is artistic and wants to, do some art or something. You can tell them to take some time off, listen to some music, walk around, do some physical exercises, go on log walks, visualize the environment, just something to take their minds off the activity immediately. So once their mind is off that activity, then they can know what to do. Okay, now they are removed from that activity. They can now know how to respond appropriately. You also want to be able to redirect them. Okay, you want to be able to redirect them. Tell them to go do what they like to do. Tell them to go do what they enjoy. What do they like to do? Teach them to go do that. You want to teach them some calming strategies, like I've said, teach them some coping mechanisms, something that you would do as a parent. You want to show them, you want to teach them how to do that. Finally, frustration is not the enemy. And I just thought to put that out there. Frustration is not an enemy, even though it may stress us. It may appear to put a strain on us as parents, especially when it comes to addressing it. But we need to learn that frustration is not an enemy. In fact, I would like us to see it as an opportunity for teaching, opportunity, for reshaping, remodeling some behaviors that we want our children to learn. It might also be an opening for us to see how our children react in stressful situation. Stress is a part of life, you know. As a human being, our lives daily would have some element of stress. Stressors are everywhere, okay? So we need to be able to manage those stressors and be able to channel our frustration appropriately. It is important that even when we feel frustrated, that we do not react based on the frustration. There's this scripture that I like. I think it's Ephesians. Yes, Ephesians chapter 4, I think from verse 25 or thereabout, where Bible talked about not letting your anger last beyond a day. And of course, that's borderline of frustration leading to anger, leading to aggression and the likes. You do not want your child to grow up like that and live with those emotions festering. You want to be able to teach them how to manage those emotions, how to channel them appropriately, so that ultimately they are still productive. Ultimately, you know, you want to teach them to be productive either way. You don't want children that when they are frustrated, they are just done. They become, you know, they're at a stage where they cannot do anything. Another thing that I remembered, when you feel frustrated, you can sleep it off. Sleep is a good thing, like I say. Sleep is a good thing. And Bible says that he giveth his beloved sleep. So if the frustration becomes unmanageable, okay, you cannot manage it, you do not know what to do, put some headphones on, go to your bed, cuddle, and have a good sleep. Trust me, by the time you're waking up, whatever activity is causing the frustration, you've already removed yourself from the situation. You have a good sleep and you wake up refreshed, and you are able to properly analyze the situation and do whatever it is that you need to do. Okay, as adults, if we can imbibe some of these strategies and teach it to our children, we'll see better outputs in what they do and how they do them. Another thing is, at the end of the day, when all this aligns and when all your ducks are in a row, your child will learn to self-regulate themselves, and they will know that if I'm in this situation like this is what I need to do, this is how I need to do it, so that ultimately I am still productive even when I am feeling frustrated. Okay, if this helped you, please share with a parent. Share with a parent. If you haven't followed us on any of our social media platforms, this is my personal invite to you to please do so. Share this video with your network, share these videos with your friends. If you have gist for me regarding episodes of frustration that you've seen, gone through, please feel free to share. Hit your like button, comment, follow us. Thank you for being here. Have an awesome, amazing rest of the day. Take care.